Children with LGBT parents on Reddit, how do you feel about it? Are the sayings right? Do you feel like you're actually missing something? I have two moms and a stepmom, so I'm both a child of gay parents and a child of divorce. When people ask me this question, I usually reply, well, what is it like to have a dad? It's all I know. My family has plenty of issues, so I definitely feel like I missed out on some things, but I don't think being raised by all women was all that relevant. The biggest problem growing up with gay parents was other kids' parents. A lot of kids weren't allowed to hang out with me, and the parents who would have me around would ask strange, intrusive questions or make comments. My dad came out when I was 3, after over 10 years of marriage with my mother. I don't remember it, but my mother still seems bitter about it, even after 2 long-term relationships afterwards. My dad has been married to 2 men since he came out. I think him and his current husband are both wonderful. I don't care if my father is gay, even with my mother non-stop telling me how unnatural it is. My dad is in love with a guy, and that guy loves him, so it shouldn't bother anyone. I just get on with my life and enjoy seeing my dad or dads whenever I see them. They still made a huge effort in raising me and were more caring to me than my mother ever is. However, when you have one real dad and 2 stepdads, Father's Day can be a very expensive time. My mom realized she was a lesbian when I was about 6, so most of my life I grew up with 2 moms. To add to this, I don't have any uncles, and my brother is also gay. So I grew up in a feminine household, to say the least. I can't deny it made me more feminine in the traditional sense. I'm much more open with my emotions than most my age. I'm very open with compliments and like to talk deeply about things. My mom is also lesbian. And as a male, I definitely agree that I am far more in tune with my emotions than the average male, and find it easier to discuss them. I'm grateful for my upbringing and wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, so my mom divorced my dad to be with her lesbian lover when I was 8. My mom and her girlfriend were together for 10 years until her girlfriend passed suddenly, and now my mom is married to her wife who has never had sex with a man, but had 2 kids via a sperm donor who are around my age. Her long-term partner died suddenly as well, hence why she and my mom kinda got together. If you would have asked me or my brother this question in middle or high school, we would have said that while a gay home is obviously better than no home, there is something missing in gay homes that straight people provide: the perspective of 2 genders. However, since meeting my step-sibling who never had dads, and the 5 of us having some long drawn-out discussions about all of our upbringing, we concluded that the reason we felt that way when we were younger is because it was basically like asking us, how would you feel if your dad wasn't around? So of course, we felt weird about that. The more we discussed and talked about how our emotional and material needs were met and all of the family friends that were in the picture throughout our childhood, we think that if we were born into a family where we only had 2 female parents, we wouldn't have ever felt that way. It was kind of a weird progression. But I think my confusion as a child was caused by people around me politicizing my situation, rather than framing it in a way that is realistic, if that makes sense. My father is transgender. When he broke the news, I was heartbroken but not surprised. There were too many clues growing up. I went through a period of mourning. I saw it as losing my dad. Being his little girl, I knew I was treasured. So what would this new change bring? After coming to terms with all the changes, I've grown to realize that I didn't lose my dad. The outside may have changed, but on the inside, she was still the same caring and supportive parent I have always known. I feel I had gained a good friend. We have a much more open and relaxed relationship. At this point in my life, I don't need anyone to parent me, so it's really great to have a very close friend in her. I feel like my life is richer as a result. Like maybe I leveled up as an individual. It's a nice gift to be able to accept people for who they are. I see the many facets of people and have grown to appreciate them more. I don't know that I would be such an open and welcoming person if I hadn't gone through this experience. My dad came out to my family when I was 12, and although it was very traumatic and life-altering for my mother, things were okay for me and my brother. I was raised to appreciate and respect the LGBT already at that point, so it wasn't him being gay that was tough at all, just the after effect. 6 years later, it's hard to remember a time where he was straight. It really only made my family closer. Of course, that's just the surface explanation. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. My dad is happier now, I think, but my mom isn't, so there is a negative and a positive to it. My moms had been together 8 years before they had my sister, and I came along 3 years later. I knew that we were different than most families, but I grew up with parents who love and sex support me no matter what I do. And I can appreciate that on a different level now that I'm an adult. I know plenty of people with opposite sex parents who can't say that. One of my moms, my non-biological one, transitioned to male when I was 19, and that was a very difficult adjustment to make. My mama became my dad, and I had a hard time keeping pronouns straight, and he had a hard time not being frustrated. And all around, it was more of a challenge than I wanted to admit. Things did settle down and he moved back to the West Coast where he was from. He and my mom didn't make it. Even before the transition, they hadn't gotten along in years. We all kept in touch, and we had about as good a relationship as you can when you're 2,000 miles away. He died from a brain tumor in September. I miss him every day. I really think my upbringing made me more open-minded and loving, less judgmental and kind. Thanks, Mom and Dad. My mother is a lesbian Roman Catholic. My father is an oddly feminine guy who is straight, but he shows a lot of romantic affection for guys. Pretty sure he doesn't want to bang them though, not like my mother. My mother never admitted this until confronted about it directly, but she is still adamantly against LGBT activity and almost disowned me when I came out as transgender. Go figure. She's chosen for whatever reason to hide her problems. Join cult-like homeschooling groups where they chant in Latin, praise Jesus even though she's obviously miserable, and pretend to be happily married to a man even though nearly everyone knows she's not. She's also a narcissist because our family dynamics wouldn't have been effed up enough as is. I refuse to be like her. I have 2 moms and they broke up when I was in 5th grade. I did not think I missed out on anything. One was more masculine and the other more feminine, so I almost had both in a way. They could have done some stuff better, especially when they broke up, but they are human and make mistakes. Other than that, there has not been any problems. I know especially now that there is nothing that I really missed out on. My mom has a new boyfriend and he is convinced I don't understand the way the world works because I have never had a man in my life. He has taught me nothing that I did not already know and is an egotistical asshole. He taught me how to spot them better, I guess. I sometimes feel like he thinks his dick is so long that people should duck every time he turns. He also uses the N-word and calls people pussy, which is nice. I would have preferred to not deal with him in my life and keep 2 moms. My parents divorced when I was 2 and my sister was 4. My mom came out of the closet and my parents' divorce was amicable. My dad took full custody so my mom could, in his words, figure her life out and didn't request that she pay child support. My sister and I had stays with her every other weekend. After about a year or 2, her life partner was a significant fixture in our weekend visits, and soon we were taking vacations and staying at her house when he would come over. They were in a relationship for 25-ish years up until 4 years ago. I've always treated her like a second mom. I still visit her pretty regularly and make a point to involve her with my kids as they are growing up. I would say that I didn't really miss anything because of my mom's sexual orientation. I can't really say what cause it might have had on my personality. I didn't have a tough time with bullying or anything like that. I will say that I wish my mom had been more open about what their relationship actually was. I was naive and just believed that my mom and her best friend or life partner really enjoyed their time together. It wasn't until I was 14 that I openly asked my mom about their relationship and got a kind of "I figured you knew" response. Oh well, not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, but it always stuck with me as an almost cop-out for not wanting to explain life to your kids. A friend of mine has 2 dads. One is Pops and the other is Dad. She was taught all the things that a girl would learn from her mother, but her dad, who has done an amazing job being a feminine example to my friend. Dad does her makeup every day and helps her stay fashionable and does the typical stay-at-home parent duties. She is incredibly well-adjusted, very kind, absolutely charming, and very, very well-dressed. I was adopted at birth by an interracial gay couple in the early 90s, when it was still extremely difficult for gay couples, especially men, to adopt. I was the only girl in my school to have 2 dads for most of my childhood. This was in a liberal US city with a large LGBT population. I was always the unique one, always had a lot of explaining to do to my peers, and even barred from participating in a few school events because I had 2 dads. To be quite honest, that was the only crappy part about my upbringing. My dads are awesome parents. I think the fact that they had to wait so long and go through so many hoops for a child made them especially committed parents when I finally came along. Not clingy or overprotective by any means, but just real solid hands-on parents. Since I wasn't an oopsie baby like many kids end up being, my parents were truly prepared, emotionally and financially, to take on the extremely difficult task of parenting. Compared to my peers, and I'm probably partial, my childhood and its lingering effects on the person I am today was phenomenal. My parents weren't ever afraid to skirt around potentially awkward issues about growing up. For example, my first period, buying bras, first date, etc. And always emphasized that I had a strong network of female relatives and close family friends to reach out to if I ever felt the need to talk about girl stuff directly with other women. I know, and I am still friendly acquaintances with my birth mother, and I truly feel thankful to her for giving me to my awesome parents. Though my family faced a lot of discrimination as I was growing up, both implicit and explicit, my dads led by example and never backed down from it, or let ignorant and hateful people win. They instilled in me the importance of being yourself and to never be ashamed or apologetic for who you are. I consider myself a great counter-example to all the bigots who claim that children of LGBT families are somehow scarred or have a deficiency caused by the lack of a father or mother figure. I am happier and more successful in life than so many children of traditional families that I knew growing up. My dads are rad, and I feel like the luckiest girl in the world to have found them. I'm not missing a damn thing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and don't forget to watch our other videos.